Welcome back everyone for season 2 episode 14 of Kenshi Let's Struggle. Cue the intro.
I miss your face, life in throwing face, shadows on the lake. Oh hey, I'm not okay. Something has your day, yeah I'm doing great.
The Harold and his skeleton group are continuing their journey across Venge. It's night right now, so there's not light beams shining at us, but we do have an odd encounter still. The group is looking pretty fine though so far. Back at Fort Harold, things are in a fucking chaotic frenzy as always, but we're managed. And the goal for today's episode is to make some more exploration. I want to get some more stuff in the tech tree research, so we're just going to go explore around the map as we're basically able to do that now with the strength that Harold and the skeletons have. Back at the base too, I'm noticing we're going to need some more recruits soon. We're running low now that most of our people are on farming, so I'll be trying to grab some more people soon. As far as raids go, we don't even get any like Shek challengers in this area of the map. So Implord can just play whack-a-mole with the bandits all he wants. I'd like to get him super OP because he's still gaining stats, so this is a great way to do so. He's already starting to hit for 400s, close to 500, so that's very exciting. As well as most of the troops just laying around the base, they're all doing pretty well too in their stats. Nobody's really below 40 attack and defense. Now with big groups like this, Implord does get injured quite a bit, and he loses quite a bit of blood. It takes about a day or two for it to regenerate. Meanwhile, over in Venge, Harold and the skeletons were doing pretty well. They were able to go past just about any bandit encounters they had, and there wasn't too much to really find. We found some of those metal things sticking out of the ground, but this is when they start to see new groups and factions. You can see the Blackbeard pirates fighting with the Grog power. And they still have little to no information on what the factions in this land do, so hopefully we'll just be able to survive any attacks. Ruka is still on the strength training as well. I make sure to have her following Kang. She does get sidetracked a lot, so it takes a lot of micromanaging to get her strength up. But Harold and his group made it to just near the unwanted zone, and they decided that they wanted to go explore it. Now, it's better than fucking beams of light shooting at you, but there isn't really much around here. From what I could find, there's only a village owned by a faction named Vafuma, so with that being the only thing I could find, of course, I'm gonna go after it and try and explore it. Meanwhile, we had encountered the White Eyebrow clan again, and this was the first time in a bit, especially in these areas we haven't seen them before, but they're a lot stronger over here. Instead of being like very weak near 20 attack and defense, they're more at 40 and 50. And these ones have weapons as well, so they're pretty terrifying. Snub has also been making quite a fucking disturbance with his flying throughout the air like a basketball. So whenever the Space Jam music cues, you know what's gonna happen. But the group were able to heal up successfully and make it to the village. Now we need to rest up Harold. We also need to rest up our Hiver recruit Frankie G. Now, I recruited him, and I lost the 10 minutes that I played before, so the first 10 minutes where we found Frankie G out in the wild is gone. Moving on though, B02 would look around for some maps because we couldn't find any ruins just from spotting around, and none of the places really had any maps. It had plenty of other useless stuff for me, but on the bright side, right outside of the base, there was a long cleaver that was in golden variety, so of course I picked it up and I put it on snub just because it's a pretty good weapon and might as well take it back. I decided to send a group more to the bottom right of the unwanted zone, see if there's anything down there. We did see a few nice things, like a crab fighting some river raptors. River raptors did win, so that was pretty interesting to watch. Meanwhile, the group could still really not find anything within this place. I mean, we could find lots of battles going on around, but nothing that we would really want to loot or check out. We ended up finding a second village, and this place did have one map that we could pick up, but it was way far away, so it's not anything that would really help us on this exploration run. But that I decided to send them into Stobe's Garden, as we haven't gone here before, and I felt like they could handle it. Now, upon entering Stobe's Garden, we could see a group called the Reavers, and they were non-hostile towards Harold and his group. We walked by their huge outpost, and unfortunately the doors were locked so we couldn't get in. But this just means we'll have to figure out, you know, how to get in or maybe how to make contact with them. We still had no idea of what their group is really about. Shortly after though, I did find what appeared to be a ruins, which is when Wet Axo got knocked out. I went to go check up on him, and it turns out the whole group was basically split apart, and some White Eyebrow thugs had ambushed B02 and a few others. But everybody got back together and they were able to take out the White Eyebrow thugs with little to no problem after that. With that done, I could send them over to the ruins to check out what is there. Now we would have a few random people coming to attack us from the Oni clan, who we also don't know about, but it does seem like they are hostile, at least towards us, so we took them out with little to no problem. They weren't too strong. But right after, we could see a beating going down across the hill. It appeared the Reavers were enslaving an escaped slave. Now, with how strong Harold and his group is, they felt like they could probably go over and save this guy and see what's going on with the Reavers and why they're doing this. Which is when we could see the Reaver go and attack a innocent drifter, just drifter skeleton walking around. And then they go to patch him up to enslave him. With Harold and his group approaching though, they have no idea of the kind of trouble they are about to cause. The Hair Young Empire is not about slavery. That is not cool. You can't be doing that now. So Harold and the skeletons fucking ran in. The Reavers are pretty strong compared to most of the units we've encountered so far. But on the bright side, we're also pretty strong too. With 70s to 80s in attack and defense, everybody was pretty good. And with Snub in the background slapping them around, it went pretty well and the Reavers were all knocked out. Right after that, Erocative went to go save the escaped Reaver slave and patch him up, while the rest went to go save the Drifter, who was knocked out and needing rebooting. To which right after, we could see the group healing up the escaped slave and the Drifter, and making sure that they're alright. Now the group would linger around because the Reavers actually got up, like quite a bit of them. Most of them ended up standing up or trying to fight back, as well as another group coming through. I'm guessing most of Stobe's guarding is infiltrated with the Reavers and this enslaving fucking group, so we're gonna have to figure out a way to combat them. Harold couldn't imagine what would happen if months before he had ran into these fuckheads. And in a world like Kenshi, vigilantes are always welcomed. Skeleton Fox would even go as far to make sure that the last Reaver running away with broken arms would be caught with a swing from his axe. So with that, we could see the Drifter skeleton that we had patched up get up and walk off on his way, teaming up with a nomad trader group. Who knows what this Drifter will become. Moving on though, the group had other business to attend to, the ruins that was there. Now this was of course a bunch of broken down houses, and these ruins, typically most of them that I've found aren't that great. You'll mostly find some books, some skeleton muscles, power stuff. There's not too much there as far as like ancient books or research. So they left and went to head towards the tower. After which, the group was ambushed by the pirates from the Breveren coast. They weren't too strong either, and they even come with a bone dog, but even bone dogs are pretty easy to pick off for Harold and his group now. This is when after we had met our first encounter with the skeleton bandits, or as they should be called, the skeleton simps. They walk around with these fucked up masks that look like V for Vendetta mixed with Wrong Turn, so I'm not fucking with them at all. They walk around praising skeletons but then attack Harold and the group because Harold and I guess Frankie G is with them. So with this, I decided to send a group into the crags to explore this area, as there's an outpost nearby, and I was guessing it would probably belong to the skeleton simps, and my suspicions were correct. I could see them all crawling around a fucking bitch. They had huge patrols patrolling the outskirts of this outpost, but Harold and his group were not weak. Even though they do a lot of damage and have some pretty fair stats, the skeleton simps are no match for Harold and his group. Snub though, on the other hand, he will always be fucking flown like a basketball. Harold's platoon was able to take down that group of skeleton simps though, and after which they made sure to heal up everyone and go and run and grab Snub. Now if you thought the Reavers were bad for getting up, the skeleton simps are way worse. They are very strong. They are very fucking resilient. They're not even skeletons, they're just human, but it seems that they're posing as skeletons. But there'd be no matter though, as Wet Axo and the rest are all doing quite fine with their skills right now. And they're all able to take out plenty of these guys. Harold was getting pretty hungry, so I grabbed a river rafter that he'd been carrying for strength training, and then cooked up some dried meat on a campfire while the rest fought some skeletons. Moving onwards, they could go up towards the base. Now the base seemed to be located on the highest hill within the crags, and we could see about 8 different shacks. And when checking the map, there's 74 actual people there. Now there's some beatings going down in the shacks, so this obviously looked like they were either enslaving or just beating up people. Now before going into combat, Erocative was able to talk to one of the skeletons, to which the skeleton guard tells them that their goal is to destroy all humans and to join him. To join, you have to go and speak with the Elder. But we wouldn't be joining, as we were on a mission to grab loot and take out any fucking weirdos. These guys were definitely on a weirdo list, and even though they took down a fair amount of a group at the start, the rest were doing quite fine. B02's making really good chops, and Wet Axo has some great spinning kicks now, so they're able to do some great damage to multiple units at once. Meanwhile, Snub had flown all the way off a fucking hill back into the fucking butt crack of the Craigs. On a bright side though, we at least found quite a bit of good weapons. These were yellow tier weapons, a lot of them, so they're very nice. And a lot of them I don't have at the base or have a blueprints yet for, so I made sure to knock out all of them and check out what weapons they have to throw on Snub. They did have 2 containers, which mostly look like this, have a book or 2, and then some other stuff, some grog and weapons, so I made sure to grab the stuff that was of value. And then upstairs there were 4 skeleton beds, so I made sure to send all of our skeletons there to use their own skeleton beds against them. Meanwhile, Snub was stuck having a seizure down the hill, so I sent Skeleton Fox to go save him. And even though Harold was pretty much one hit during this entire journey, he still put in plenty of work. He was making sure any of the skeleton simps that would wake up would be knocked back down. I'd say the best loot we got from here was one of the stealth legs that's of yellow quality. That is really nice. But after which, they would continue to fight these skeleton simps. There's about 4 to 10 of them in each of these little shacks, and I honestly think we knocked out like probably dozens of them before we had even entered the big spot in the base. Just clearing out all these skeletons within these buildings, there's quite a few of them, so a good amount of the group had already been damaged at least. I checked up on Snub and, you know, of course, says Snub is just doing what Snub does, flying through the air, this time at amazing speeds and amazing height. Pretty cool to see, and then he just stopped right there. Now, it was at this time that I finally went to the base and put down a hemp processor to put our hemp into fabrics, that way we can continue like half of our base operations. I probably should have done this like 2 hours before exploring, but you know how we do. But the group was doing really well still. They were able to take out any of the skeletons that were coming up, and thankfully because the groups were so low, which is when they entered the building and encountered about half of the faction. Now, this wasn't good, but the group was confident, and they stormed the gates, entering and trying to disarm and knock out any of the skeleton simps that were fighting. Snub and Harold would both go down first, but the rest of the skeletons would all try their best to stay alive as long as possible. There were more and more skeleton simps fanning in from the second floor of the building, so it was not looking too good. Even though they had knocked out a good portion of them, just more and more seemed to come, almost like never ending. To which it was just B02 stuck outside fending off against the skeletons. Even though he'd be able to block plenty of hits, having this huge group swarm him was enough to knock him out, and the rest of the group was unable to get up as they'd be knocked out whenever they got up. And unfortunately though, that meant that Harold's platoon had lost this battle. They were all knocked out and within the skeleton simp's base. Now luckily though, B02 managed to wiggle out and Snub had flown outside, so he was all good. Now, the rest of the group, they just dropped off at the buildings. I'm guessing the other skeletons might have tried to enslave us, but because we already knocked out them, we're pretty good. So the group was able to make a heal and go right back at it for round 2. Leroy Jenkins, baby! Now this went about the same as last time. Most of the group got knocked out right away. And this time though, the outer came down, the skeleton. And he's pretty strong, 70 to 80 in attack and defense. After they ditched the group outside again, I decided everybody should just heal up and get together. We'll go back to exploring and looking for runes. We'll be able to come back eventually to clear out these guys. If they were to bring someone like Implord along, surely the skeleton simps would stand no chance. Now, for farming modules, I just want to point out, they are on a weird leveling platform, so it took me about half hour to figure this. You gotta fuck with the stairs and everything, but I did manage to get it to work. And I had to go about 3 different attempts trying to get someone ready for training. They would always end up crawling away or getting hit by an actual weapon. And afterwards, Harold and his group were in the pits and seeing a black gorilla for the first time. Which right after, they could see something way fucking more interesting. A Leviathan. The insane beast of Kenshi. 3.8k HP in most stats and then 7k in his stomach. The Leviathan is an insane monster. I could only guess he'd be bigger than an elephant in the real life world. And from Harold to him, Harold's about the size of like his fucking little foot there, you know, the edge of it. So the group was not looking towards fighting this beast. Although there was a secret drug farm right behind him, they did not want to take the risk of aggroing the Leviathan. Who knows the kind of destructive power that he has, other than people who have already played and beat Leviathans, but I'm not there yet, so fuck off and let me have my fun. Sent the group back to Fort Harold because even though we didn't really grab much, I felt like the exploration run was a success, and they had at least scouted quite a good bit of area. Heading back to Fort Harold, you can really see how big it is when you're a little bit of distance away, seeing the huge walls and such. But it was nice to finally be back home. And with that, it brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you everyone for watching the video. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you leave a like and a comment. As always, thank you guys for all the support you've been leaving on the videos. I appreciate it a shit ton. And you guys have a good one. Peace.